Good morning, everyone. My name is Arun Tangri, and welcome to our first panel discussion on contactless technologies and the future of dining. Uh, Nowadays, a lot of restaurants and food businesses are moving towards contactless technologies. What do I mean by that? Whenever you see a digital menu, digital kiosk, or a QR-based scanning, or a mobile POS system, basically the systems where you do not have to talk to any individual. There is a tech interface. You go to a restaurant, you scan those QR codes, place your order, and pay your bills. All those technologies are collectively known as the contactless technologies that we are talking about as the context of this session. Over the last decade, there has been a phenomenal adoption in terms of these technologies. Some of the brands were able to reap the benefit out of it. Some are still struggling to find out how best to incorporate them as an overall strategy for their own businesses. Today, we have a very diverse and experienced set of panelists here, which have got decades of experiences of running the food businesses as owners, as the part of the leadership team to launch various different brands. And through their experiences, we would like to find out what has their experience is vis-a-vis these contactless technologies, and how do they see the market, the consumers, even the employees are sort of adopting these technologies, and where we are heading in terms of as a future for this entire group. So just to quickly introduce my panel here, so starting from my left, we have Mr. Rifakat Ali Khan Mirza. He's the founder of The Works. Then we have Chef Sudhir Arora. He's an executive chef from the TFS, Travel Food Services. It's a business which cater the travelers on the go. So whenever you go to the airports and the places, there the food that you get, that is the company which is behind it. Then we have Mr. Kabir Jeet Singh. He is the founder of Burger Singh. It's a very renowned burger chain in India, and has shown a phenomenal growth in terms of the business development right from the scratch up till this point. Then we have Mr. Kabir Advani. He is the owner of Burkos, and there is no need for the introduction to the Burkos. So the person behind that chain to start up from the very beginning to take it to the current stage that it is in right now is Mr. Kabir Advani. And then finally, we have Mr. Jaspal Singh Sabharwal. He is an industry veteran, and in the previous slides, you have seen that he has been instrumental through his prior engagement in setting up the brands like Burger King in India, is also currently playing some role to give the directions to Subway India, and he has got a significant years of experience behind him to understand the human aspect of it, the technology adoption, and now, because of the current avatar of Tag Taste, there is a deep learning in terms of how the entire industry is taking the technology as the strategic piece instead of just a technical piece and taking it forward. So without further ado, let's begin our panel discussion. I will start with Mr. Rifakat first. So Rifakat ji, you have in your previous avatar have dealt with the POS systems, and you have seen the technology adoption in general, and more recently the contactless technology adoption in general. So what has been your experience? How have you seen India transforming from the past, and what are some of the challenges or the opportunity that you have seen so far?
See, basically for reasons of time, let's keep it to retail focus, and I would take the entire industry, as what Jaspalji said, including restaurant, hotels, food tech companies, although they call them tech companies. The reasons are basically pillared around three factors only: efficiency, convenience, and of late safety. There has been a paradigm shift. I think the industry has reflected what's happening overall in technology. There is a very high amount of technology ubiquity, which the industry can't ignore. There's a lot of technology embedment, which has happened. We've come a long way. Of course, COVID precipitated a lot of issues, and it kind of moved ahead. So we moved from manual 10 years ago to what is called technology as such. And the factors have been more so because of the changing nature of the diner itself. Earlier on, the diner wanted more subservient service. Now the diner is more, he wants value for money, he's very direct. There's a lot of autonomy that the diner, he wants choice. Talking about contactless, I think there are two clear issues. One is the human touch for reasons of safety, which we saw clearly. The lesser we discuss COVID, the better it is. The other is the human intervention. Now it's counterintuitive because you expect human intervention to be a lot in dining. We want service, you want people to come to us. But what science has told us and what is proven is that where technology can take over simple processes, it works much better, it's much convenient, it's error-free, it is much more efficient. And so it saves time, it saves costs. So the direction is towards lesser human intervention. We're not dehumanizing service, neither are we lessening service to any extent by doing this. And that is the direction that we are moving towards.
Okay. Vis-a-vis the contactless dining, have you seen an adoption in terms, some hesitation in terms of the adoption from the brands? Are they looking at it from more tactical perspective than strategic? What has been?
No, it's very true. I mean, I'd like to say strategic, but it's mostly tactical. The biggest tactical example was COVID. We saw that. There are some tactical examples like a government directive or a mandate which comes through. I'd like to think strategic because the constraints are, and I would like this to happen in the future, is that technology DNA changes. Technology is not a department. Technology is not you build a restaurant and choose the POS system. It's much beyond that. I'm not going to get into air conditioning systems and kitchen equipment of technology in restaurants, but the customer touch points, if you can integrate it at a company DNA level, right, and at the project level, you can take care of cost. Technology comes at a cost. A lot of times technology is not adopted, not because of a mindset, because of the cost. The initial cost of adopting the technology is too much. Now we're talking contactless, so you're talking about a lot of physical spaces. We've seen during COVID, we saw these very odd structures springing out of nowhere into restaurant, like a sensor or a detector or these sanitization stations. So going ahead, if you can integrate, and it requires a lot of back-end wiring. I mean, of course, cloud helps for sure, but going ahead, you will have a lot of physical infrastructure, hardware to be integrated into the design and the cost. And you have a lot of time to choose the right technology. There's a lot of paucity of time, and the way technology is selected today, the industry is actually quite odd. What I see going ahead is a lot of ERPization of POS systems, not to the extent that full-fledged SAP is. Even SAP has got SAP 1. And the other thing which I think is the adoption is there, but the usage is not there, mainly because of training and mainly because of the need for it. A transaction is mandatory, so you will process the check, but are we using the inventory management modules? Are we looking at the statistics of the POS systems? Same happens in a lot of, it depends on the company's downward integration of technologically thinking and report backs. So if you keep a leeway, for example, if you keep a leeway for using a manual override, then it doesn't work. But yes, technology will come through. I mean, if you look at, I'm not going to say see a lot of sci-fi integrations over here, but people will start seeing value in the system, which means that point-of-sale systems and technology companies should start involving the industry at a very initial level. Not everybody has the resources like McDonald's to have their own white-labeled ERP solution, but going ahead, that will happen. We need to look at a smart restaurant system. Of course, kiosks will happen. As we speak, there's a company called Neuro, which is testing autonomous vehicles with Uber Eats, which will happen. We've reached level 4 of autonomy in robos. There's a test drive going on in America where there is a company called Serve Robotics rather, who's got robos serving. Level 4 means you do not need human intervention beyond within certain areas. So the robo can take your food where it is supposed to deliver without, almost a self-thinking human. What is important is that the corporate thinking changes. The technology is there, and the technology is something we can't avoid. But how well we integrate is important. Mindsets, it depends, like what happened to the ThinkPad. The restaurant menu, it lost out because a lot of people thought it's not working, but you have to make it work. You want the brand look and feel to come in the menu. Who stops you from creating something very dynamic in that pad? It's just that you didn't. You left it to the POS company. or you have a QR code scan, but you have a non-readable PDF which comes through. Why? It could be something more interesting, more engaging. So there is a human interface required in developing more brand-relevant technology, if I may say so.
Thank you. So there is one aspect that that actually caught my attention. One line that you said, technology adoption is there, but the usage probably needs to be increased, and there can be some innovative model. We have Chef Sudhir with us. So as I said, that he represents travel food services, which cater to the travelers on the go. I was having a word with you, and there were a couple of very interesting use cases that you mentioned. One of them was about the digital QR, digital menu, which were available at the airport outlets, where your travelers could actually order the food themselves. And more recently, you have also adopted food at the boarding gate concept, which has actually taken up pretty well. So can you give us a little bit insights about what was those initiative and how has been your experience in
So
that?
the first thing is the self-ordering kiosks, which we were talking of. So they are huge 6 by 3 feet digital screens where you have your menus and photographs of the food and very enticing shots of food. So people, 2019 we got 6 of them placed at the food court in the domestic airport and different locations at the near the boarding gates. So and we saw that people were just would come see what it is and just walk by us like it's something does not matter to me what it is. And we had to deploy team members, ask people if they want to order through that. So they were skeptical. Order किया तो late हो जाएगा, मेरी flight का time हो जाएगा, I'll have to board and I have to go. What would happen? So fast forward to 2021, 22, early January, February, when travel started again and people were traveling, we saw that people would actually come there and order and then they'll wait for their food because it was not standing in a queue in an outlet. It was just ordering by themselves and they could pay there and just they knew what is happening, how would the food come. They'll get the messages every time they place the order. Different stages of food ordering. It's ordered is in place, the accepted, like in Zomato you usually get. So we saw the acceptance. So earlier people would not, we would not get any orders from there. Hardly 8, 10 orders. I remember when once first 10 orders in a day we got, it was like a mini celebration that wow, 10 orders from that kiosk, all 6 put together. Now today we get more than 1,000 orders from those kiosks, and obviously we have that food at gate thing also. It's a mini tab where we have the menu, pictures of the food, and people can access them, order from there, pay through the app, and then wait for their food. They get the food within 20 minutes. Now we've started that 20 minutes of free thing also. So people exactly know where their food is and where it is coming from. They can select the outlet, they can select the cuisine, and it comes to them. And everything is digital, contactless.
Okay. So I'm assuming that there would be a team at your company which is actually looking at it, strategizing about it.
Yes.
Then there is a technology interface which enables you to actually take different mobile devices to the customers
Yes.
at different point in time and take in. So have you seen any uptake in terms of, let's say, business? Has it actually converted or resulted into some increased revenue?
Yes, of course. Like I was telling you, we hardly used to get 10 orders a day. We were celebrated when we got the first 10 orders in a day. But today we get about 1,000 orders, which is approximately 5% of our revenue from those food at gate initiatives.
Okay.
And maybe next year we think we'll get about 15 to 18%.
And that's
orders.
very good.
Very
number.
interesting thing I want to share. When we started this food at gate, the background of this was that one survey company did a survey and they said about 25% of travelers, they are not going to any retail place because airport for them is just a means to an end. From point A to point B, they need to travel, they'll go to the airport, catch a flight and go to their destination. 25% of people would not go to retail shops or food or anything. They just go to the boarding gate, sit there, wait for their flight and board and go. So those 25% of people were potentially we're losing them. Mm-hmm. So their food at gate came from there, and then we see that they're increasing, and we are getting. Those guys were like business people who just wanted to go and sit at the finish their work, sit at the gate, not to be disturbed, or they would anxious flyers, first time flyers. They just don't know where to go. Then go to their boarding gate. If flight miss nahi ho jaye, I should not miss anything. So those kind of people, we are able to, meet them and target them and convert them.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experience. I'll actually, taking this digital QR board concept a little further, I'll come to Kabir Advani ji. So Barcos has been using the digital and the QR code based scanning systems for quite some time in many of your outlets. Have you seen that resulting in sort of increased customer loyalty? Experience-wise, has it actually changed the way people used to look at Barcos prior to using such systems versus later than that? What has been the customer experience like in your case?
Hi, thanks. As far as QR code ordering, had you kind of had this conversation 3-4 years ago, this was not even a starter for us. I mean, we were not even thought about it. But I think COVID changed it all, and it kind of became a need at that time. And now I think the new generation has become very comfortable with this whole concept of ordering through QR code because of Zomato, Swiggy. They're very comfortable in just ordering like that, and I think they kind of now prefer it. They don't want, and it kind of it saves time. The whole experience can change. Now we've tied up with a company called Dash, where actually you're seeing your dish, the photograph of it, you're seeing a video of the dish. So it's really the whole experience is kind of changing. And yes, we are being able to get their numbers, because when they kind of log in and all that, they get the numbers. We're being able to use all that data for loyalty. We're being able to kind of interact with them through other mediums. I see new things coming in. There are some of the digital providers which we yet don't have, but it's, they've got cross promotion with different liquor vendors where they're upselling dishes, while you're ordering, so that experience is really changing. As a matter of fact, I was in Australia last week, and out there though, I think I was surprised that I think concept of menus khadam hi ho gaya. Wherever you go, everyone is very comfortable just ordering through a QR code. People are pre-ordering, people are reaching restaurants and ordering. They're paying at the time of ordering through the QR code. So it's just that whole, I mean, if we don't do it now, you're seeing in the next 3-4 years, it's definitely going to be happening over there. I mean, even the smallest of restaurants are using this. People are just not comfortable with those menus anymore right now. So I think, and soon it's going to be an ordinary thing. I mean, everyone's going to be using this.
With the advent of acceptance of the UPI and the digital payment frameworks that we have in India, I think the adoption in terms of the consumers probably will be aided because of the other things which are getting digitalized. Yes. And are you seeing such changes or customer demands in your businesses?
You can see the businesses growing. The amount of business that we are getting, cash payments versus all these other payments, it's already...
Okay.
All the writings on the wall already, I think.
Okay. And it's post-COVID that you have seen...
it just happened because, people got comfortable. It became the need at that time. And now youngsters and all that, they're very comfortable. They order. Before you know it, they sit down and
Okay. I would like to take now this point across to Jaspalji. So as a veteran in the industry who has seen the days in which it was just in the cash payment, in your previous presentation you said that cash was a preferred mode. A lot of people were also hiding the taxation, etc. With these kind of digital platform, it's slightly difficult for people to sort of fudge. My question to you is, what has been the attitude even vis-a-vis your own employees? Because no technology adoption is going to succeed unless your own organization is actually taking it forward. So what has been your experience in terms of the tech adoption in general, and then specifically about the contactless dining kind of scenarios which we are facing right now, and how is it compared vis-a-vis the customers? Are the customers ahead of your own staff, or are they in sync, and what has been your experience?
So as my colleague said that it all started during COVID. The technology was always there. QR was invented long ago. But if you look at the QSR context, the fulcrum is in the US. So whether it's Burger King, Subway, McDonald's we talked about. So what they did during COVID, peak of COVID, was they started experimenting because in a large international or even national chain, change is not easier to manage. So if you look at the new generation Burger King outlets or Subway outlets or McDonald's, uh, companies are seeing it as an opportunity to cut down on the manning also. So McDonald's manning on the front end side, if you go to Indonesia, the integration is complete. India, it's just started. So I think same time next year, you will just see 3 or 4, helpers on the front of the house helping people. So they are setting up ordering kiosks. These are large sort of screens, fixed on a sort of stand. And they are not giving you the sort of manual ordering option. So it's bringing the whole manning cost down by a factor of 18 to 23% depending upon the country that we are talking about. The other parameter in any fast food kind of system, which I'm sure when we hear from Kabir, he will give you a better color than I would, is shrinking the service times. It's all about rotation. So an average McDonald's or a Burger King kind of formats in India. So an average McDonald's serves 2,200 customers every day. Now close your eyes कि एक 2200 स्क्वायर फीट का स्टोर है इसमें और 2200 लोगों को आप खाना खिला रहे हो. People coming in, going out, including delivery of course now, which is roughly 40% of the business. So shrinking the service time also becomes a very, very critical success parameter. So people measure their ordering time, people measure their service time, the whole kitchen is synchronized. So these are two aspects. Now coming to the last bit which Arun asked, how are consumers taking it? So in general we see that consumers under the age of 30, they take it very naturally. They have that instinct hai, they just take to it. But in Asian societies and even in Western societies, elderly people sometimes struggle just to kind of get a handle on everything. So that I guess takes its own time, and these brands are smart enough to line up help wherever there is needed. You would never allow anybody struggling with the ordering. Customer hai, nahi order kar sakta. So like you see now in even in airlines, you have to, there was no boarding. अब वो आपके साथ सिक्योरिटी के साथ yourself, they don't even have a helper today. Other fellow passenger or somebody would help you. You see that happening, but you don't miss a flight because you are not tuned to punching in what is needed. So I think it's an adoption curve. Luckily for India, 50% of the people are under 30. तो 50% तो sort out हो गया. तो जो बहुत ज़्यादा elderly हैं, they are as such not 80 plus are about 6-7% of our population, 75 plus sorry. तो वो तो बीच के 35-40 लोग में 50% जो हैं, they are savvy. तो बाकी रह गए 20-22%. So you take those things in your stride. So it's simple adoption curve, I would say.
So adoption curve is something that is at play right now. And if I just take this particular point now to our final panelist, so I've kept one of the most difficult or the interesting problem statement for you. So considering the diverse nature of the Indian consumers, we have 4 or 5 generations of the people which are currently buying the services, consuming this all tech from at various restaurants. I understand that you feel it will take a little bit longer for the masses in general to adopt these technologies. So what can be the right way to educate and encourage the end consumers or your staff? What can be those strategies in which the adoption curve that is happening the overall time to the market can be reduced further. So what can be those few strategies which can actually work wonders?
Wow, that is an interesting one. Um, I'm a little confused on the whole adoption curve. India is a number of markets in itself, right? And there are so many technologies that are flowing through. Um, Chef gave an example of the on-gate pickup. A few years ago, there was a company, I don't know if it's still around, called Grab and Go. They had one of these apps where you could sit in a cab, scan a QR code, it'll open up to the airport that you're heading to. You just put your boarding pass on it, your gate came, and you could pick up whatever you wanted on the menu. And it would get delivered to your gate. They had contracts for both Delhi and Bombay airports, so obviously had the right contacts. I think the company shut down now. So that speaks a little bit about return on investment in something like that. When they got the tender, obviously they paid a lot for it and obviously burnt through the money and didn't survive. I remember Burger King also having some kiosks pre-COVID and they kind of rolled back on that situation as well. I've seen McDonald's now do the whole kiosk situation and we were looking at it very intently and I spend a lot of time at McDonald's, oddly enough. And I realized that a lot of people, even though the kiosk, self-serving kiosk might be intuitively a lot more efficient, I'm still seeing a lot of people still standing in line in Gurgaon, which is slightly ahead of the curve in adoption, I would assume. And if you look at the demographic of the people who are standing there, it is Gen Z, right? It is. So now a lot of people are used to mobile phones in Gen Z under 30, but I'm thinking most of the people are still using their phones or technology either as entertainment. We love talking to people. We still, like I go for a morning walk and at 6:30 in the morning people are talking to I don't know who. So I'm assuming that people still want to kind of interact with somebody, have a conversation on what the recommendation is. We did a lot of QR codes. We were very aggressive with this whole QR code situation post-COVID because we wanted people not to interact with our staff and stuff. And at that time, this QR code adoption really took off. But now it's hard getting somebody to scan the QR code and getting them to kind of order at the table. Tier 3, Tier 4 cities, again, another way of looking at India is the demographic, population size, Bharat, India, all of those. In a Tier 3, Tier 4 city, we again tried one of those kiosks and we wanted to see if the adoption over there is going to be faster. We didn't see very much happening. Now, there's a slight caveat that I'd like to put over here, which is Generation Alpha, which is Generation A post 2010, the guys who were born with a phone in their hand, right? I see a lot of these guys where the mother is trying to feed the child and the child wants a phone to stare at first and only then when he, will that guy eat. Born in 2010 and now kind of, teenagers. Those guys are really, good at self-serving kiosks, QR codes and stuff, and they're helping their parents and stuff. But unfortunately for us, those guys don't have any money. Right? The money is still with the guys who are 35, 40, 25. And those guys still want to talk to someone here. It's the human interaction is still there. Is there a silver lining? Yes, there is. The Generation Alpha will not remain broke for the rest of their lives. They're smart kids. Somebody will make a software, somebody will get a job. And that's when I feel that this adoption will really kick off. Also, Indians you have to force them to kind of do technology, right? It has to be a utility. Zomato and Swiggy become utilities. Parking is hard, so everybody wants to kind of, have that come in. You look at the airport, there's still a line at the airport, even though you've got that Digi Yatra thing going on. So if you make it a utility, if you make it a spot where the guy is not happy with the friction in his life, which I think is mostly dealing with government officials. If you bring a technology to kind of move the friction out of that zone, then the adoption might be faster. Generation Alpha, the adoption might be faster. But we're still a service industry here. I think people want to walk in and still talk. The guys who still have the money want to talk to people. Can I train people to kind of do the self-serving kiosk? I wouldn't want to get into that. Yeah, I sell burgers. It's one of the oldest professions in the world. Do banne hai, beech mein tikki hai. Not much I'm doing. I want the guy to come in, get out, 15 minutes, sit on the seat and empty it out for the next guy. So, am I going to stand at the kiosk and get somebody to train them? No, the cost of labor in India is still fairly low. I'd rather have him interact with the guy and kind of move from there. So, slightly contrary view, but
Sure.
maybe not the right thing to say
it's true.
at the Q Buster event.
Arun.
Thank you. If I look at what we have sort of discussed, one thing which I was able to establish that it's still in an early adoption stage, the technological concept, if I may say. But if the brands look at some specific use cases, may not be from a point of view of just looking at it from a contactless dining, but how can they help their end customers maybe save some time, for example, the giving the food at the boarding gate itself, making their life easier, and breaking down your entire operations or different touch points in such a way that in some of the technological areas, there can be some low-hanging fruit with which you can start. Start with the younger generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and then slowly keep on sort of pushing the envelope further for the eventual adoption of the technology, which may take a little bit more time for the people to come. If done properly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, carry on. I just want to make a small
Yeah,
point.
please go ahead.
Something which came to my mind is that, a big lacuna which I've observed with a lot of clients of mine is that the contactability. So adopt contactless technology, but keep it contactable. As it is, that IVR, your call is important to us, so listen for classical music for 10 minutes was worse. And then you got inefficient chatbots going after that. So that is the biggest lacuna, and the amount of people taking on to Twitter because nobody else is responding on any of the tech platforms in retail is insane. So that is a particular area of work for a lot of people. I don't know how many coders, developers, people are over here, but that is a big lacuna, and because people are moving from brand loyalty to experience loyalty, and that's why they shift platforms. There's so much of freedom and democracy available. And going ahead, I think that will be a big differentiator, how contactable you are. Even if you have a restaurant menu, can't we just speak to the chef from there and say, can you add this? And the chef can respond or something like that. So that's a big area of, I think, growth which I see immediately. Where I don't project technology beyond 5 years because even technology can't.
So like everything else, you need to look at the problem statement and solve some of the areas really well for them to really be fruitful for you as well as your customers. There's still some distance for the industry to travel before they can really say that it has become a mass movement, but we are definitely getting towards that direction. With that, I would like to thank all the panel partners for their time and valuable insights and blessing us with whatever we have just discussed over the last half an hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you.